And we're back once again with the second women's Sabre semi-finals. This time, Sophie Emmens on the left with Amy Freeth on the right. We have Finn McCombie subbing in as our referee, Carl Prophet and Richard Foster this time as our VAR, and Sophie Emmens taking the first point there in the match to decide who will face Caroline Martin in the finals. This is our second and third seed, with Sophie Emmens being our third seed and Amy Freeth being our second. Counter-attacking there by Sophie Emmens to take 2 points to 0. And that's another counter-attack coming in from Sophie Emmens to extend that lead even further. Referee calling together on that next point. And that's the first point on the board for Amy Freeth, taking that deficit down just to 2 points. And again, Amy Freeth with another point, now in for 3-2. Again, Amy Freeth now closing that gap, and it's all tied up. A lot of points in the middle currently. Combi deciding to call together. Not going to VAR. Very good effort from Amy Freeth there to avoid that counter-attack. And that's another point coming in for Amy Freeth, who is now taking a 2-point lead. And that's another point from Sophie Emmens, who is now starting to creep back into contest. But that's another point from Amy Freeth to take us to 6-4 for the Sabre. That's another point there for Amy Freeth. And that's another one from Amy Freeth to end the first period, 8 points to 4. Both defences now taking a minute break. Not quite as close as our first semi-final, but certainly not out of the game yet. Sophie Emmens still very much having a chance to close that gap, but Amy Freeth currently holds the lead. Both fences receiving some coaching, it seems like. As the time ticks down, we wait for the second period, and whether or not Amy Freeth will be able to maintain this lead going into the second half to secure that place in the final, or whether Sophie Emmens can mount the comeback and go on to face our first seed today, Caroline Martin. Fences are coming back into the middle. And we are now ready to begin the second period. And that's a point out of the gate for Sophie Emmens, who is looking to close that gap as quickly as possible. And that's another simultaneous in the match. Sophie Emmens perhaps looking for that counter, and she gets it once again. Another counter attack from Sophie Emmens, who has scored a number of counter attacks this match, Now closing that gap to 2. And that's another point. Amy Freeth unable to hit in the middle with Sophie Emmens going up to 7. Missing that opportunity there, but takes the counter attack. Sophie Emmens missing that initial attack in order to capitalise, but is able to score a counter to even the score. Ooh, and that's another hit. Unlucky from Amy Freeth there, who again fails to hit in the middle. Referee going to VAR for this next call. Carl Profit and Richard Foster both standing by, ready to help Finn with the decision. Referee taking his time with this decision. Definitely a close call for that middle attack. And it seems as though the referee has made his decision, moving back down to the piste to deliver the answer we've been waiting for as to whose point this is going to be. And that's a simultaneous. Finn McCombie not making a decision, saying it's too close to call, and that both fences have come in at the same time. Again, with that next point, simultaneous. And that's a point for Amy Freeth, who is now even the scoring. And that's a point for Sophie Emmens, who is taking her lead back to a point lead. Simultaneous attack there from the fencers. And Sophie Emmens has called for VAR, so back we go to wait. See how long they deliberate on this one. Certainly shaping up to be a fantastic match from the women's Sabre semi-finals. We had the first semi-final, which was an incredible bout between Caroline Martin and Karen Campbell, with Caroline Martin taking the victory, and now a very close bout between these two women, who are giving a fantastic account of themselves so far. Sophie Emmens with some fantastic counter-attacks, whereas Amy Freeth with those fantastic attacks in the box on priority. Certainly both fences giving a great account of themselves, both of which would be very deserving for the final. Of course, only one can make it, and we will see which it shall be. Referee again taking his time with the decision. And Finn McCombie seemingly seems to have made his decision, walking back down the steps to deliver the answer. And it goes to Amy Freeth, back to 10-10 evens as we go to the next point. Simultaneous. And that's an attack no from Sophie Emmens, possibly a crucial mistake in the match. We will find out. Again, another mistake from Emmens as Amy Freeth takes a 2-point lead. Simultaneous call there from the referee. And it's another VAR call. This is the third VAR call this match, certainly shaping up to be tight. Certainly still all to play for. Very tight, very tense match so far. Again, a long deliberation from the VAR desk. And Fimicombe making his decision, moving back down to the piste as we wait with bated breath. And it goes to Amy Freeth. That is another point, potentially game-changing. And it's a simultaneous call. Sophie Emmens unable to get that counter-attack she's relied on so heavily this match. Amy Freeth now 1 point away from that final. And it's another VAR call. Fimicombe going to the VAR desk for the fourth time this match. We'll see what the decision is. This could decide the match. If this goes Amy Freeth's way, she will go through to the final to fence Caroline Martin. If it goes Sophie Emmens' way, she will be one step closer to closing that gap. And if it's simultaneous, we'll be right back where we started. Our referee today is certainly enjoying the use of the VAR whilst we have it. You can certainly see why. It's definitely been a very tight match, a lot of close calls. And Fimicombe making his decision, walking back down to the piste. And that's a point for Sophie Emmens. She closes that gap. Can she continue to close the gap? And that's Amy Freeth with the final point. Sophie Emmens unable to close the gap as Amy Freeth progresses to the final, where we have our first seed and our second seed exactly as predicted. Caroline Martin and Amy Freeth will face each other in the women's Sabre final. Stay tuned for that, as well as the women's foil final, as well as men's épée, who will eventually get round to the finals and semi-finals at some point. Eventually. guys, and we'll see you for the next match, whether it be the finals or the semi-finals.